Hey there, Riley Car Guy here, and today let's talk about the cars that I hate. So I was updating my list of vehicles that I've owned on my website just the other day, and I realized two things. Well, first of all, I've owned a lot of cars. The total number of vehicles I've owned is now 59, and so I've had a lot of experience with a lot of different vehicles. Well, as I was looking through the list, I also realized that some of those cars bring me a lot of joy, right? So I see them on the list and I have fond memories of owning the car. But there's also some other cars on there that when I see them on the list, it just makes my blood boil. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to bring you a list of the top 5 worst cars I have ever owned. All right, let's get into this. Now, generally, these cars are kind of universally at least liked, maybe even loved. They're great little mid-sized trucks, but the one that I had seemed to have a lot of issues that really irritated me. The biggest problems we had with this car was, first of all, it's god-awful slow and horrendously underpowered. Like, jam the gas, slowly putzing away type of underpowered. But that's not even really the issue. The issue was the injectors. This thing was absolutely rife with fuel injector issues. It would have this issue where out of nowhere, the car would start shaking and it would be even more underpowered than it already was. And then I would have to go get it fixed. At the time, I didn't have the garage or the tools to do it. And they're surprisingly not cheap. They're like multiple hundreds of dollars a piece. So when you fix it, you're like, okay, great, everything's fine. You keep driving, and then another one fails. And it kept going and had cascading failures where until 3 or 4 of the injectors had problems, and I had to replace 3 and 4 injectors, and I had to bring it to a damn shop to do it. The thing ended up costing a ton of money, and it was just an obnoxious vehicle to own. Next up is a 2004 Lexus RX330. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, Japanese car must be fantastic. Everyone loves them. Lexus is Toyota, and Toyota's just super reliable and just never has problems. Think again. This car was a freaking nightmare. This had transmission problems from the day that I bought it to the day that I eventually went through arbitration with Lexus and had to trade it in for a massive loss. Without boring you too much about the story, there was a issue with the transmission where you would hit the gas and there would be a really shocking and sometimes terrifying delay between when you actually hit the gas and when the car started to move. It could have been, in some cases, multiple seconds. And then when it did actually shift, it would slam into gear and then sometimes even break the tires loose and the car would start to drive away. Now, the problem with this is pretty obvious. Pulling out in traffic, green lights, passing, merging, all of this stuff was not only made a terrible driving experience, but could absolutely be dangerous in some cases. Long story short, it was under factory warranty. They ended up replacing the entire transmission. It was like a $13,000 or $14,000 job. Didn't have to pay for it, but I just happened to see the bill. And then it still had the problem. We ended up going to Lexus and going through arbitration, but surprise, surprise, Lexus hires and pays for the arbitrators. So you can imagine how that went. The arbitrators basically told us to go to hell. And so I didn't feel safe driving the car. We ended up trading it in for a $14,000 loss because the dealership that drove it said, hey, you know there's something wrong with this transmission, right? God, that was such a piece of shit. I seriously get irritated about it right now, and I own that car, I don't know, 13 years ago. Never, ever, ever again will I own a Lexus. Lexus, you're dead to me. Ah yes, German cars, the other cars that get absolutely lauded for being absolutely amazing and perfect in every way. Well, not so much. In fact, spoiler alert, number 3, 2, and 1 on my list are all German cars. German cars are so incredibly over-engineered and complicated that they are so obnoxiously expensive and difficult to fix that they're honestly not worth owning unless you buy them new or lease them and keep them under warranty. And the second they're out of warranty, dump that piece of crap. My particular GLK was a Blue Tech and all-wheel drive. I thought I was making a great choice by buying this thing. I bought the car when it was about less than 2 years old, maybe less than 3, and it still had the factory warranty. It had less than 30,000 miles on it. Bought it. About 2 months later, we were moving across country, packed it full of stuff, and started driving it across country. Everything seemed fine until we got to the mountains, and it wouldn't even make it up freaking hills. It literally just started shaking violently like it was having a seizure, and then slowed down to about 20, 25 miles per hour. By the time I was in the mountains, it was dark. I had a vehicle that would not go over 30 going up the hills, and I was on I-75. It definitely put me in a bad mood. I just spent nearly $40,000 on a car, and I couldn't even drive it across the country. I nursed it all the way back up to Michigan, brought it directly to the dealership and said, deal with this piece of crap, where they proceeded to have it for 3.5 weeks, and they tore down the transmission, took it out, and they had to put in an entirely new torque converter. Ended up being over a $10,000 job. Again, warranty covered it, so that's cool, but my God, how is a car that's less than 3 years old, less than 30,000 miles, having the torque converter blow up? So much for that beautiful German engineering. Ooh. I think I need a minute on this car. I get so heated when I think about the Z4. This thing is such an absolute nightmare. So this is the 2009 BMW Z4 that I owned for 40 days, and it was in the shop for 30 of them. Whatever absolute hunk of junk motor they put in that thing leaks like a sieve. I bought the car, and 2 days later, it was pouring oil all over my garage. Brought it into the dealership. They, of course, started fixing it under warranty, and they fixed the first leak. Cool. Came back. Guess what? Very next morning, oil all over the garage. It was leaking from a now different place. Brought it into the dealership. Had it for multiple weeks. Brought it back, and now the car was doing this thing where it was like shuddering, and it was shutting itself off. No idea what was happening. Brought it back to the dealership again. This time I brought it to a BMW service center, and I said, give me a quote on taking this car off my hands. I want a trade-in quote. I don't want this piece of junk anymore. You know what they told me? They drove the car, and they said, we're not gonna take this in on trade. So I drove a car that had under 40,000 miles, only a couple years old, drove it to a BMW dealership, and they refused to take it in on trade. What does that tell you about the build quality of their cars? Okay, deep breath. 2001 Audi TT. The thing that makes my blood boil about this car is not necessarily about its reliability or its quality. To be fair, when I bought the car, it was quite old when I bought it, and it had a lot of miles. So that's fine. What really, really irritates me about this car, and what puts it at the absolute top of the list, is the horrific anti-home mechanic design that this car had. If you needed to do anything to this car, you could not go just get a standard set of tools, standard ratchets, and some screwdrivers and work on a car like you can for most domestic brands. This thing, you had to go buy special tools and special sockets and little releases and little twisties and this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter what the hell they are. It's all different things you had to buy just to work on this one specific car. That, coupled with the quite a bit of problems the car actually did have, makes it our #1 car. Now, I do want to say there are multiple German cars that I've owned that I do actually like, and that is the BMW 228, the Volkswagen Turbo Diesel Jetta, and the Porsche Boxster. All of those were pretty great cars. That being said, I still do not understand the fascination with the German car brands. They are in absolutely no way better than domestic cars, in my opinion, and in a lot of ways, they're a lot worse. Thanks for letting me basically complain to you for the last 10 minutes or so. Comment down below, what is the worst car that you've owned and why? Let's talk about it. Also, be sure to hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you in the next one.